None of the methods with primitive water procurement are fast and efficient, and a stainless steel container is a must-have. But if you find yourself in a wilderness setting and doing survival and you don't have some kind of modern container, there are several techniques that you can use, and we're going to show you a couple of improvised methods that will work. The first being a sip well. To do a sip well, all you've got to do is find some kind of standing body of water, and the way a sip well works is you're going to use the soil as a filter. But the one thing to pay attention to is that you don't want to do it in an area that has a lot of animal tracks. That can make a big difference in the overall contamination of the soil, because animals tend to like to pee when they drink, and they'll contaminate their own water sources. Giardia, also referred to as beaver fever because beaver like to urinate and poop in the water sources that they live in, is a disease that causes massive diarrhea, and it can last anywhere from a few days upwards of 40 days. But the upside of most waterborne diseases is that they don't usually affect you in the short term. So if you think that you're going to get out of this survival scenario and you're becoming massively dehydrated, it is better to go ahead and drink water and deal with that later than it is to die of dehydration. But that shouldn't really be an issue, because we're going to show you these quick and simple methods that can be used anywhere in the world. And the first method I want to show you is the sip well. The reason we wanted to show you the sip well is because it's essentially a ground container, and you can dig one of these next to any water source in the world, and all you're doing is digging down to the water table. And now, I have drank out of sip wells hundreds of times without rock boiling these, but I have a very strong immune system, and obviously this is what I do for a living, and I don't suggest that you do that. You also have to keep in mind that the bacteria that is down deep in the soil isn't the same stuff that is in the water in the creek here, and that's where the parasites are going to be. You don't have to worry about the same kind of parasites that would affect you from the stream being in here. So, this is not the prettiest method, but if you find yourself in a primitive survival situation where you are having massive dehydration, this is, one of your quickest and best bets, unless you want to make a coal burn container or have some type of other container that you can rock boil in. So I've let this sip well fill up, and it looks fairly dirty right now, but once you drop the hot rocks in, or if you were to just let this settle on its own, the water at the top would be clear and you could drink that. But it is definitely optimal to rock boil, so that's what we're going to show you how to do. When digging your sip well, you want to make sure that you build a fire very close to your sip well so that you're not having to go back and forth over long distances. And all I've done is made some tongs here, and all I've done is split a stick right down the middle, put a toggle here, and then tied it off on both sides with a piece of cord. And you want to wait till the rocks are almost glowing, and you're just going to drop those in. And you don't even have to get it necessarily to a rolling boil in order for it to be safe. Any water that is pasteurized, meaning you get it over 175 degrees for approximately 15 minutes, is going to be safe. When choosing rocks for rock boiling, you don't want to pick stuff that comes from a creek, because any rocks that have been exposed to excessive amounts of moisture will get the moisture inside of them, and when you heat them up on the fire, they can explode. So pick rocks from dry areas. Now, this is a really down and dirty technique for sure, and it's not going to be the best tasting water. But once you let this pasteurize for about 10 to 15 minutes, let it get up to 170, 180 degrees, and ooh, it's hot. And if you get the rocks super glowing red and you fill up most of the hole with them, it will almost boil instantly. Our rocks aren't quite hot enough in this situation, but that's just fine. Pasteurizing is good enough to get the job done. The great thing about rock boiling is that basically any kind of container or thing that you can use to hold water, you can use rocks in order to boil in it. One of the things that we teach our students is how to make coal burn containers out of wood, where you essentially burn a hole straight into a piece of wood, fill it with water, and then take the rocks and boil with that.